All right, so this is my second attempt at recording this because the first time I did, my mic kept on cutting out, and when I was doing subtitles, I realized that half of the words that I was saying were just not coming through on the audio. So hopefully this time I'll actually be able to be audible. But today I want to discuss my thoughts on on the likelihood of a AoT sequel coming out. Just straight out the bat, I do not think that an AoT sequel is very likely. It was a very successful story. It would be in the best financial interest of all parties involved for them to make a sequel, but I still think that it would be unviable in terms of storytelling and the thematic, ideas being presented by the original story. I feel like it would be very hard for them to develop them. For Isayama to develop those ideas any further than what he did, because he did an amazing job closing all of the plot threads, especially in the last chapter. I do actually personally like the last chapter. It did kind of come out of nowhere. I feel like the ending was a bit rushed, but for what it is, I feel like the ending is still it still resolves a lot of the problems that the story had, except for what I want to discuss in the only way that you could possibly argue that there would be a sequel. And so let's get into this. So we obviously, this was the original ending. You have Mikasa sitting on a hill overlooking the fallen Shiganshina district after the rumbling. This is, back at the beginning of the story. She's sitting at the same tree. And then you have her wishing for Eren again, touching her scarf, being all sad. And then a dove comes down. I read somewhere someone said this was a seagull. Just maybe it's a seagull. I don't know. It doesn't really look like a seagull. The beak isn't the right shape. But some white bird comes down, grabs the scarf, pulls on it, and then tugs it up, flies away. Throws it over her shoulder like Eren did, and then she, gets a bit happier, and then she thinks that the seagull was a clone of Eren or something because she's obsessed with him. And then this is where the new addition to the end of the story comes in, and this is where people start saying, "Oh, there's a possibility of a sequel story because of these 4 pages." So we have Mikasa with a baby, and what looks to be Jean. So Jean finally gets his wish from the start of the story. Maybe, I don't know. I'm assuming this is Mikasa, and this is, the tree, the same tree. We can see the gravestone is still there. They go to visit it. You got probably some family friends, or like some of the other cadets who are still alive, or relatives of Jean and the such. They go, and Mikasa gets older as time goes on. Mikasa dies. The city is now modern, and humanity starts bombing everything. The city is completely abandoned. As you can tell, because nature completely takes over. There's no reconstruction happening. So it's assumed that, humanity just goes through this cycle of complete destruction once it gets the technology to do so. And then the power of the Titans progresses the world forward. And then a boy comes across the tree that Ymir came across back about 1,000 years before the start of the story. So this beginning, this boy coming across the tree is what people argue would be like, oh, this boy is going to become the new founding titan, or he's going to gain some other powers. We don't know if the power of the founding titan is the only thing that you can get from the spine thing. It's assumed because it's the only thing that the worm thing ever gave to anyone, because the only person who had the worm in it was Eren and Ymir. Assumedly, I mean, we only see the worm thing in a couple different panels, one where it attaches itself to Ymir, and then Ymir immediately becomes the founding titan, and then there's that time where Eren gets his head chopped off. and the spine thing tries to reconnect it because he has access to the power of the founding titan from Ymir. Instead of just being connected through the paths, he actually has access to the full power. So it's assumed that this kid would gain the power of the founding titan or something similar if he were to go in there. I would like to dream that it wouldn't just be, a repeat of all of her powers, that the kid might actually get something different, like he's able to gain super intelligence, or like he doesn't just grow to become a giant, he gets some other superpower. And I mean, that's obviously like speculation. Nobody knows exactly the nature of the worm thing, and that is the entire premise of the argument for the continuation. Obviously there's this letter at the end of the chapter which is saying, the world did not exist until 2009, blah blah blah. We believe that nothing is more valuable than the people being able to share in emotions, and that cannot be put into words through a story. It makes us happy that we were able to feel that way with readers and partners by way of Attack on Titan. Though the series has come to an end, these memories are sure to always warm our hearts. Our battle is only getting started. And I mean, the thing is, people have been claiming that this line right here means that we're getting a sequel. But it also says that though the series has come to an end, it literally recognizes that the story has been completed. And I think that this just means that it's more Isayama trying to say that he's going to try and make a series that lives up to the hype of his authorship, since he was the author of this amazing story. He has to put forth a cocky attitude in order to put faith in fans that he'll be able to live up to the hype of his next series. Now, I think he can do it, obviously, and I'll be willing to stick out for a couple dozen chapters before I drop it if it's like really bad. But it's just, I don't know. I do not see any way in which you could interact with the world that has already been presented in a meaningful way. The idea behind Attack on Titan is that when you first read it, you have this amazing experience of discovering the world as the characters discover it, right? So, like, you learn the nature of the Titans, you learn the nature of the outside world, you learn the truth of what is happening to the people inside of the walls and why they don't have any memories, etc. And that kind of thing can only be experienced once. Once you've read the series or watched the series once, and had certain things spoiled for you, you can enjoy the series in a different way a second time through, but you will never be able to unknow certain parts about the series. Unless if you were to just watch it once, not really pay attention, everything's surprising, and then you don't look at it for 20 years and you never think about it again, and then you watch it again after you've completely forgotten about it. But for the most part, people that are watching this show are heavily invested in it because it is such a good show and it grips you very well. So once you have experienced the story once and you can, remember most of the important plot threads and the story beats that happen with certain characters doing certain things, there's no way for you to experience that again. And the magic of the story was that the world itself was acting in that same way, where you didn't just have betrayals from people, you also had, like, the universe itself was expanding in the same way. Now he could do character writing in the same way, but the only thing that hasn't been touched on is the nature of the spine creature. So unless if he were to go into some, like, history behind the spine creature thing that grants the powers of the Titans, there's nothing else for him to surprise us with at this point. He could do a sequel that is that would probably not be very successful. Just like, a repeat of Attack on Titan, but in a different setting. That would not be something that most people would find entertaining after a while, I suspect. Although, of course, it comes down to how well he can write. I still think that the appeal of Attack on Titan has already been expired, and he would have to do something other than Titan battles and, old school warfare mixed in with superpowers in order to captivate the audience in the same way. So of course there are other ideas about what the power of the Titans could be, since it was said that Ymir didn't come into contact with some random alien thing. It was said that she came into contact with the source of all life, so maybe it can grant other kinds of powers. Maybe the power of the Titans is just something that Ymir desired at that time. She just wanted to be larger than life, so she could escape her existence. Or maybe it was out of a desire to help people that she thought that she could shield them, or some other, like random connection that caused her to become a giant. And that's the cause of the power of the Titans, was because Ymir herself wanted to become a giant for some reason. And it's possible that you can become other things if you come across this power with different desires at that time. Maybe this boy will he desires knowledge, so whoever has access to his blood gains super intelligence, or like a deeper understanding of the world, and there becomes a tradition of passing down the knowledge of a certain things. Or like there's other types of superpowers that could come from this. Like maybe there's maybe like the descendants of the person who has this get stands or something. Who knows? In reality, I think that it would be very hard for it to be tied together in a satisfying way, in the same way that the original story was. Everything that the story did was well done, and I don't see any way for a new story to be bred out of this world when everything has been wrapped up so well by the final chapter. And anyone who really wants there to be a continuation of the story has to seriously reevaluate why they want it, and whether they think it's reasonable for that to end well. Because of course you would like to see your characters continue on, but as you can tell by the end of the chapter, all of the characters are dead, right? It's been, millennia at this point. The forest has completely overtaken the city. There were empty hills, now there's a complete forest. This tree has grown from, a normal-sized tree where Aaron was, and it just keeps on growing. There's no way that any of the characters that we knew are still alive, especially the ones with the powers of the Titans, right? Like, they're all, well, actually, no, because they lost it at the end, right? So they would have been able to live normal lives, but I still... It's just there's no reasonable way to expect Isayama to pull off a well put together story in the same universe. You would have to either only focus on this aspect for a much shorter run, or what I suspect is that he's just going to leave the story where it is, and there's not going to be any further content produced in the universe. And that's really all I have to say. It's just, there isn't really any purpose to him continuing on this story. So, yeah, thanks for watching. Let me know your thoughts on a continuation for the series. I hit 10 minutes, so that means I get AdSense. Or is it 8 minutes now? I don't know. But yeah, thanks for watching, guys. If you guys stuck it out to the end, make sure to follow, throw me a subscribe, like the video, comment your thoughts on the ending, the updated pages to the ending, these 4 pages, and whether they convince you that maybe something's coming down the pipeline in terms of the spine creature lore for that, because that's like the only thing that hasn't been discussed in the story. But yeah, I appreciate you guys. Have a good day. Take care.